Just a long lost look in your eyes brings out a love that I can't disguise. So take me down to the places I've never seen. Oh, don't you try to kill me with kind. It's just your love that's driving me wild. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, into the light we go, into the light we go. From the darkest night, from the fire inside, into the light we go, into the light we go, into the light we go. It's just a long lost look in your eyes, brings out a love that I can't disguise. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, to the light we go.
Welcome back, guys. We got more LCK action coming at you live right now. We're going to jump into MVP versus KT to start off the night. I'm Valdez. With me is Papa Smithy. We're on our last week, Papa. We're getting close to the end.
On our first week of patch 8.5, but like you say, only 2 matches left for every team in the LCK, and everyone has something to fight for. MVP looking to stay out of the relegation spots. KT Rolster, an outside chance of leapfrogging a FLICKR who play later today. It's all about 2-0ing both your opponents this week. But for a lot of these teams, that might not be enough. A lot of teams are depending on other results as well.
Yeah, you never want to be in a place where you have to depend on other teams, but that's usually the case as we get towards the end. Either way, guys, let's introduce our teams that are playing tonight.
그리고 포스트 시즌에서 유리한 고지를 점해한 팀이 만납니다. 먼저 순위는 하위권이지만 현재 기세로만 본다면 중위권이라 해도 손색이 없습니다. 뒤늦게 불붙은 그들의 경기력이 오늘도 빛을 발할 수 있을 것인지 지켜보시죠.
MVP coming back here, trying to avoid relegations. They're right on the cusp of it here in 8th place, and they have hard opponents coming up. They got to go up against KT and SKT to finish out their last games. It's not going to be an easy road for them.
And that's the problem, is they need a victory in one of those games to guarantee they won't be in the promotions, but you're against a Telecom War team, so the likelihood of that happening with KT and SKT with plenty to play for at the top of the standings is unlikely, Valdez. But MVP have surprised us before. They are still going to be changing things up as Maha will be starting our first game here. Pilot has been preferred and has looked like the starting AD carry, but they're going back to the super best friends that kept MVP going for 3 seasons in a row.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing when you look at it. Pilot certainly seemed a little bit more mechanically skilled. His Caitlyn looked off the charts, but Maha perhaps with a little bit more, you know, of a veteran status on the team. Maybe they want to play him up against the telecom teams. Maybe he's got a better read. We're not exactly sure, but you guys will know that ADD is going to be in the lineup as you see him there. Either way, let's introduce our second team of the first match.
중요한 이슈가 되고 있습니다. 정규 시즌의 마지막 대결, 상대팀과 동등한 위치에서 대결하기 위해선 오늘 반드시 승리해야 합니다. KT Rolster!
KT Rolster, nobody should be a stranger to them, and as you may have imagined, their full normal roster is in the booth tonight, Papa.
That's right. Score will be starting, of course, but Yukal will remain a starter, so no sign of pawn in a couple of series. KT Rolster did beat BBQ, but it was a close one. It went to 3 games. And apart from the Azir, and to a little lesser extent the Talia, we're still gonna unpack the champion pool for UCAL, because it seems like Azir priority, even after some small nerfs in patch 8.5, will be high for KT.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way, undefeated on the Azir, and I say normal because he seems like he's here to stay, at least for now. Definitely trying to give this, originally the substitute, a little bit more time in the booth and a little bit more practice, keep Paul on the backside. He's still a fantastic mid laner. They can use him in the playoffs if they absolutely need to. But UCAL looking a lot more confident, smiling in the booth as well. And so far, his play has been quite good. I've liked his Azir specifically.
There's a slide coming up to confirm that his laning phase has been one of his strengths, and to me, that's Pawn's biggest weakness, has been general laning against great opponents. I would say that Ian, in recent form, is going to be someone that UCAL could potentially overtake, but nothing guaranteed. And, well, this fan wants to see KT go to Busan. I can understand that. Busan will be where our grand finals are.
Yeah, they want KT to win with cute boy Sungke, and Sungke is our host of the Korean desk. Certainly a cute boy, even though he's up above 40 years old. He's keeping that young look going strong on the Korean desk.
Well, let's get into the key points here and keep it away from Sungke. Looking at patch 8.5, and quite a lot of changes coming through. It's supposed to be a smaller patch, but a lot of the balance changes will be important. The Bannon perhaps loses its must-take-out status, has been no longer a stacking buff to make it basically an 8-turret shot killer in one go. The Cloud Drake goes from being the Drake you don't want to get to one of the more prized Drakes, with the fact that the movement speed is there in combat. Kai'Sa available but not eligible to be played today. But when you look at the buffs, I don't know if we'll see the Zoe, but the Swain is definitely going to be pick-up ban status in more games than not.
Yeah, I like what Riot's doing, you know, go with the big patch 8.4. We get to see it for a while, and then 8.5, a little bit smaller, but it kind of tunes some of the changes from 8.4. Surely, eventually we'll get bigger patches in the future. We'll see if we get into 8.6 later on, perhaps in playoffs. But as you mentioned, Zoe was ridiculous, got down to kind of, you know, below average, and now she's slowly making her way up to average, where Swain going to be good. Love the Cloud Drake in combat. It's really just, it's fantastic for repositioning. It's not just about engaging anymore, so perhaps we'll have to see a buff to Ocean Drake in the future to get that up to the level of the other ones.
We move on to this specific match, and MVP have had a much better second half 2 seasons in a row. Avoiding relegation in summer last year, very close to avoiding relegation, but given their strength of schedule against KT and SKT, they could still be drawn into it. Their game score, of course, not fantastic after their very long losing streak. So when it comes to these matches this week, at least game victories, at least 2-1 defeats, 2-0, 2-0, and they very much might be in that relegation playoff, joining Kongdu Monster.
You never want to be down there, especially because relegations is not going to be easy this time. As we keep on mentioning, Griffin looks good, Damwon Gaming looks pretty decent as well. Not going to be the easiest time in relegations. And taking a look at KT Rolster, certainly looking good for round 1 and even for round 2, although I guess it's a little bit worse compared to the 7-2.
And also you look at the game score, +8 versus +1, so almost a 50% ratio. And the thing you have to remember is the roller coaster, right? KT Roller Coaster is the full name of KT Rolster, and the roller coaster went up. It's on the down. Usually it peaks up again, but we're running out of time for KT to prove that they really are going to be a top 3 team. And now we can look at one of the reasons that people are cautiously optimistic is that UCAL has been able in the laning phase to be a lot more reliable than Pawn. He's had some difficult games recently. He hasn't necessarily jumped out on champions other than Azir, but we know the potential is there. This guy has been a solo queue monster for a long time. So we'll see if UCAL can have a big performance today against easier opposition compared to recent series.
Hey, you mentioned we haven't seen him much. You ban out his Azir and the Talia, and everything else he hasn't gotten a win on. So definitely another question is, can he play other champions outside of those 2? I suppose we'll see later tonight. But let's take a look at the supports with the different strengths. Max, not the highest KDA, but certainly a little bit of variety in terms of his play, whereas Mata, he's Mata. It's hard to compete with him.
And that's the thing. Max is able to play basically everything in the support role. He's got a quadra kill on support Sion. He plays range supports more than other supports. Very creative. Can be a playmaker, but can also just be a brand support and do damage. Mata is Mata, one of the gods of support. We saw his Thresh last time out in a huge MVP performance on the Thresh. Would love to see it again today. Very, very different style of support, but both of them on their day can be match winners, and that's the exciting thing about the support matchup.
Yeah, well, guys, it looks like the ban and pick is ready for game number 1, so let's hop right into it. Clock chimes 5 p.m. and the stream begins. So let's jump into it. We mentioned this, bans against UCal. It's already starting, Papa.
We'll see if the Azir will be banned or just first picked from MVP. It was nerfed pretty heavily on patch 8.5, losing 30 base damage at level 5, which of course is the ability max first, the Q we're speaking about. So laning phase is definitely weaker. And even though Ian has had a very top-heavy champion pool as well, they're opting into mid-lane bans. This was the strategy that we saw leveled against him a couple of series ago against Kingzone, where 8 mid-laners were banned against Yukal. The Syndra didn't inspire confidence. 3 mid-laners banned, but notice the Galio, which saw pretty heavy nerfs on patch number 8.5, has been banned anyway.
Still strong in terms of what it offers in map presence and tankiness from the mid lane, so still going to be scared about that. As you mentioned, no Azir ban. They go for the Varus, which is, of course, something that Def likes. He's 9-1 on that champion so far, so they'll take that away.
And let's talk about champions that have gone up in priority. The Olaf, which is already hook pick ban status, actually got buffed on patch 8.5. The buffs came through as the champion was only just seeing pro play. And in Korea, it will be even more contested this week. The likes of Peanut having massive performances on the Olaf. It'll be banned away. So we're talking about junglers. The jungle pool, Skarner is looking like a very possible first pick. Giving away Xayah Rakan is something MVP don't want to do. And even though it's a new AD carry with Max, bringing back Maha, no longer pilot, they will first pick Xayah away from KT.
Yeah, Xayah, even on 8.4 on Sunday, we saw a lot of Xayah without Rakan, and it still looks strong. That we mentioned it, we were talking so much about it. Will it get banned? Will it be first picked? Is Smeb going to play it? All of those answers turn out to be yes.
Now, it is a flex pick as well, so it's an outside chance to mid lane Swain. We saw that in the LCS. But Smeb on interview on release of Swain, when it seemed fairly weak, was quoted as saying, I think this champion's really strong. I will play it. It took a bit of time. They take the Swain, which we said would be contested pick ban status. They will also take the Skarner as well. So the pick synergy is opened up. We'll wait and see if it is Smeb with the top lane Swain. But we're already seeing new stuff, and I hope you've been looking at those notes, because we don't see a lot of Swain in solo queue, but we're going to see a lot of it on patch 8.5.
That we will. And, well, Xayah Rakan was given over in terms of, well, they just wanted to go with the Swain and the high-tier Skarner, so they give that one away here.
Now, will we see Caitlyn or Ezreal taken, or will we see the best support into Xayah Rakan looked at? The Leona is seen as the one champion who can answer the hypermobility of the Xayah Rakan. But you imagine they're going to take at least one 80 carry ban in the second round. We'll see if Deft wants to show us something different again, guys. We don't expect Kai'Sa to be available here. From what we understand, it is going to be disabled. The patch hasn't been out for 2 weeks. Deft has been playing a lot of Kai'Sa in solo queue, so once that's enabled, definitely a real chance we'll see it.
Well, neither side. I mean, you mentioned the flex pick on the Swain, but most likely going to be in the top lane. And so you mentioned 80 carry bans. We might be seeing even more mid lane bans here, because neither side has picked it just yet. And we already see the Syndra coming in. Let's see what else. Camille comes through for the top lane, so still giving respect to the mid lane Swain.
And Camille's still at full power. It hasn't been nerfed on patch 8.5, so no surprise that it will see some attention. Waiting to see how KT approach this. Again, Swain is very real to be flexing to the mid lane when his wave clear can be one of his true advantages. He has very strong wave clear for top lane, and also he can stay capable in the mid lane, especially after the buffs on 8.5. We mentioned Caitlyn and Ezreal as the AD carries man. I guess Kai'Sa may be enabled today. We weren't 100% clear whether she'd be enabled or not. Will we actually see the LCK debut of Kai'Sa?
He's smirking. I don't think we will. Not just yet. Right, Deaths? Yeah. He's going to switch to the Ezreal. Just trying to bait everybody in the studio and at home.
I got baited. What can I say?
Yeah, he's been playing a lot of it, as you were talking about, but not here, not in this patch. Not just yet. So what will be the response? I'm looking forward to seeing what will we see in the mid lane from Ian.
I think we'll be seeing the Scion in top lane. It's 8.5, so there has been the nerf on the generous hitbox of the Roar of the Slayer, so a bit more skill required, and ADD definitely has the reps on the Scion to have his eye in. We'll wait to see what they decide, because KT are flexing the Swain all the way to final pick. Final decision here, need a safe blind pick. The Anivia has gone way up in priority in recent moves. Will it be blind picked in this game? It's a pretty strong matchup into the Swain because of the range. And now Swain has to deal with either a banner of command in his face or the potential outrange that can happen from the Anivia. So I like how MVP have tried to play around the ambiguity of the Swain pick.
Well, they got to reveal it now. All the cards are going to come up on the table. And what's it going to be? Covering the Gnar here for Smeb. Definitely something he's played a lot, but he switches it to Gangplank right at the ends here. Surprised it took that long to get all the way to the Gangplank, but does come through.
There's 2 games on the main account for UCal, but all these players have multiple accounts and hide away some of their big picks. So will be mid lane Swain against the Anivia. Strikes me as a difficult matchup outside of the early levels. Pre-6 will have the push on the Anivia, but good gank assist for the Zac. A lot of things to talk about. Does avoid the very annoying Swain situation where a banner of command minion is something he takes forever to deal with in the side lane. But we see the first 8.5 Swain, ironically against the first LCK Swain in 2018. ADD ran it on the day. Otherwise, we're going to have some good scaling on the side of KT. Very big zone control with the Swain ultimate and the Gangplank ultimate for the Skarner to look for a pick. Deft jumping on the Ezreal after the ban's put through, but a lot of teamfight power for the side of MVP.
Yeah, so we get through the draft here, and definitely a big question is, will KT show up here at the end of round 2? Liking the draft for MVP, they're not going to go down without a fight, and MVP even themselves have shown that they can show up against big teams, defeating KSV, even the Rocks Tigers, so they have a lot of comfort here. We know that Ian can play the Anivia. We know certainly that ADD can play the Scion, and of course, Beyond on the Zac. So excited to get into this one.
And also, there's going to be a moment if we have a quiet early game to talk about the changes, where the meta is going, why things like Anivia are being blind picked, and the Swain flex pick, which will be a pretty big staple, especially on the red side in patch 8.5.
Yeah, so we get that final look at the compositions here. We'll see Smeb on the bank plank, see exactly how much bank he can plank up in the top side. And Deft returning to his 7-3 Ezreal, looking to pop off on that one, but the countdown has started. Let's jump straight into game number 1. Here we go, match 81. As we mentioned, this will be the first match of the last week. Week 9 here in LCK 2018 Spring.
And Deft is feeling pretty happy because he got a Q off, and his first Q got him a sack of gold. So already, gold generation going on for the Ezreal. Seeing a potential fight for the Spire, 3v3.
And that's going to be a big stun to start it off into a second stun. This is unbelievable. Already the flash going to come out from Score. And UCal on the run here has to burn his own flash. A terrible start for KT, but a fantastic read and response from MVP.
And the trade of summoners is 2 for 2, but we have to take stock of where the summoners were used. In top lane, Scion is now without summoners, and that means, given that his best role is in pushing, he will be gankable for Score to return to, whereas UCal in the mid lane is a sort of champion at medium range who can be easily hit by the Q from the Anivia. So we might see a jungle gank from Beyond. Beyond needed help on his first camp because he started Q to pull that gank off, but a big trade of summoners. Hopefully it's going to be a spicy patch cycle, and start of game one, certainly no complaints.
Well, when you commit that heavily to go for a Spire, kind of reminds me of Ambition and how much he wanted his Spire in the enemy jungle. And KT, they really wanted to control it, but I just love the read of MVP to get in there. You have so much ability to stun people up, especially at level 1. You think about Sion. Anivia, of course, can take her Q. And then even the flash and head smash from Beyond was quite nice to see. Either way, everything kind of normalizes. A faster back from score as he had to go back after taking the Raptors.
Yukal had to teleport back to lane to not lose experience. Should talk about runes because we have a mid lane Swain has gone for the phase rush in this game. Makes a lot of sense against Anivia, who has a lot of slows for the extra mobility in order to sidestep. You see this in the top lane as well, so it's not a mid lane only summoner or rune onto the Swain. And ADD brings back the Comet because he's against Gangplank, so wants to have as much lane control as possible when it comes to the early harass.
Yeah, interesting to see the unsealed spellbook on Anivia. You see a lot of Arcane Comet just for harass, but when you're going up against Swain, I suppose you want to go for some more utility in terms of your own runes. Everything else looking kind of normal. Max taking his own unsealed spellbook, whereas Mata going to be looking for the team fight, the aftershock.
Pretty big that KT were able to get lane control early in the bot side and push in against Zyrakan, as if Zyrakan get to lane first and start W, you're kind of out of luck with the deadly plumage being procced from both. In this particular game, Deft and Mata have the lane in a comfortable spot. Watching score through the jungle, hasn't backed yet, so doesn't have his boots and Talisman, which is usually the first purchase we see from any jungler picking up the Predator. So far, pretty comfortable start for both, and an early tier for Anivia, no surprise.
You notice he didn't take the Spire. He doesn't want them to know he's top. And you mentioned the flash is down. This is a perfect time for Score to try to come in here and go for a gank. Smeb also pretty low on the health, might be baiting, but here we go. Beyond looking for it. Deft with the easy arcane shift, but this gank up top looks like the Skarner he actually missed.
I believe the Fracture missed, and remember, Fracture saw a small nerf on patch 8.5 with the stun duration going down by 0.25 seconds. ADD doesn't need to overextend to farm because he is Sion and has so much AoE wave clear. He just hangs back. Gank is successful on the top side, and it seems like the early summon is going down. Won't lead to a kill. About another minute left before they come back off cooldown.
Perhaps if Score was able to get in there, but we're going to have some action here, actually. Trying to come in and stun down Maha with it, but Mata himself getting low. Now Max staying around for a little bit too long, taking that poke from Deft, who was relatively safe throughout the entirety of that fight. Looks like they're going to take control of this lane.
The trade there was actually pretty smart by Maha and Max. They tried to backload the damage for after the Aftershock, and largely the Eclipse had worn off for the Leona. But Deft was free hitting through it, so a slight damage trade ahead for the side of KT. Same amount of potions for the supports. But here we go.
Yep, the flash on in, responded by a flash from Maha. So, again, just Mata trying to continue with their lane dominance.
And trading up as well. You definitely take a support's flash for an AD carry's flash. Now Maha needs to be more respectful, so he's just doing this to give Deft more options in the lane. And he gets a big first purchase in roams. There will be even more advantages mid lane. Trying to return to Yukal, about 20 seconds short of his flash being available.
And unfortunately, Beyonti ran right over a control ward. Didn't check the pixel brush in the river, and so they knew 100%. Had that not been there, or if he just cleared it up, he definitely could have tried to return for a gank, but he was spotted out. There was still no flash. The timing was good. Yukal was very, very close to getting it back, and had even a wall come down, might have been enough to get him.
Looking at the runes here for the Swain, has gone for the magic damage shield, no surprise, against the triple magic damage dealers from the top side here. On the side of MVP, Transcendence for the 10% CDR, Gathering Storm because it's professional play and it's all we see. The perfect timing is a bit surprising, but because the Zhonya's effect was always massive onto a Swain, because he still heals through the duration of the 2.5 seconds of stasis, does confirm that an eventual Zhonya's will be there, and Swain is largely about the zone control rather than the damage, which isn't explosive.
Gonna have another try at a gank down on the bottom side from Beyond, but actually level 6 here is Score, so should be a lot more effective, but the Predator is spotted and immediately they back off.
Because the Zenith Blade went in as he pressed Predator and went over with the Blast Plant. So it was all about the synergy if the first stun hit. It didn't, so everyone backs away. Very, very interesting where these comps will go. If you look at the side of MVP, I mentioned that KT have great zone control. You could say the same thing about Zac, the Decimating Smash, and just Anivia's Wall and her ultimate. It's not necessarily the game where I think Anivia will be the most pivotal, but we will see a lot more Anivia in patch 8.5 in Korea. Anivia is kind of the hard counter to these 3 tanks and a hyper carry comps a lot of teams are running. Think to what BDD is running for the side of Kingzone, you know, mid lane Scion, 2 tanks and a Kog'Maw. The use of the wall to separate the tanks away from the carry and to basically sacrifice the tank's health bar while the carries can't do damage is the big reason why Anivia is jumping in priority. Bit of a different comp here. KT kind of have Deft as a bridge. They need Deft to be ahead. It's one of the reasons why Mata felt good about trading his flash for Maha's, because 2-item Ezreal is going to peak at a point before Yukal or Smeb get going on the Gangplank or the Swain. So it's all about 2-item Ezreal really bridging KT to the late game where they will be able to out-damage the MVP lineup who are more tank-heavy.
Well, we're going to have our first fight here as Yukal's getting in there. Heal used up by Ian. He's trying to get out of here, but you can see just how much damage that ultimate will eventually do. Ian's still not confident to take that extended fight against Swain.
Second part of the ult looks so badass, but sadly the damage is not there. And again, it's not about damage. He doesn't have any ability power yet, so no surprises. But you throw in a Rylai's, you throw in a Zonius, and the zone control for Deft to free fire in the backline will be insane. So that is the theory behind the Swain. We'll have to wait and see if there's more mid lane Swain or top lane Swain. It has its advantages everywhere, and the flex pick lets it be situational. It gets Smeb a nice matchup, just farming up against the side.
Yeah. You were speaking about the Anivia for just a bit, but I also like the first pick on the Xayah. Definitely very good at disengaging, and Anivia just builds straight into that as well. You can wall off half the composition, as you were saying. Great for zone control and just getting out of the way of people diving into your backline, namely the Skarner and the Leona. So, like where MVP's comp is at as well. We'll see, you know, if KT can get ahead early on. It's always what they like to do, win their lanes, win their game. But so far, very even. It's only 10 minutes in.
The moment a Zonius is complete, there'll be that interesting case where Skarner goes in, gets walled from his team. Swain will probably be with him, but Swain can live for the 5 seconds that the wall is up because he will have Zonias and generally be a health tank. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those scenarios come. It's very difficult to get maximum value out of the Skarner. I guess you would want a Thresh to throw a Lantern to get that cool suppression into Lantern play. Not available here is bot lane.
Oh boy, Mana in a bit of trouble here. Doesn't have his flash, but a fantastic ultimate. Max is getting really low. The teleport's coming in, and not enough damage coming out for MVP's bottom lane to take out Mata, so it doesn't work. Here comes Score now, looking for this with the Predator. Max trying to hop away here. The flash is not going to work out on the Score, but eventually, after the Featherstorm comes out, it is enough. First blood does go over to Deft on the Ezreal. Now Ian in a bit of trouble. Will be able to back off after all that action.
They spotted him out, but still walked up, and Maha's flash had only just come off cooldown. Doesn't use it. He goes down. Big penalty. The side of MVP, they thought they had it, but 3v2. It was actually the 2v3 turnaround that allowed this to happen. Mata instantly interrupts Max, and a full unload of damage from Deft makes 2 people extremely low. Teleport in the middle from both of the top laners. Both of them cancel, but Skarner comes down, and even though there's that early vision for the side of MVP, Max gets the respect flash, but Maha isn't able to get out. So definitely a flash first, then ulted, but look to be judicious. Look to hold on to the summoner, and gets the appropriate punishment for first blood for KT.
Well, so far, 8.5 is pretty nice. We got a gank from the support and the jungler in the top lane. This time, ADD does have his flash, but you're not getting it out of this one, buddy. You are too low. Nice little gank there. The kill will go over to Mata on the Leona.
No way to get out. He goes down. Very nice roam timing for Mata. And Deft is going for the pure 2-item spike. Very early spike. The Iceborne Gauntlet into the Muramana around 20 minutes. He will be solo damage dealer as 2 or 3 items come along for the Swain and the Gangplank. And you notice here, Yukal is going a tank build. It's probably going to be the Abyssal Mask first, and it could be an Archangel's late afterwards, or it could just be something like a Rylai's or a Zhonya's and a pure utility zone control build for Deft to pop up. So even though it is this Ezreal, it still is largely going to be about Deft for this game for KT.
Certainly very cool. I mean, you also got Smeb, who will eventually get incredibly strong, but more of a later game carry. And so far, KT having their way with the bottom lane and the top lane, thinking about that Mountain Drake, but decide against it.
And bot lane, honestly, is in a very much a disaster position for MVP because Maha went boots 2, deal with the enemy team. That was the Merc Treads. From there, he has by far the worst parts of the Essence Reaver. A Cloak of Agility and 2 longswords at this point in the game. Gives him really no trading stats. He only really has base damage. The Blade Caller gets a bit of a buff from the Cloak of Agility, but it's not going to be a big thing there. So Iceborne Gauntlet as a completion. Give KT lane control. They already have bot side control. Now Mata.
Yeah, Vaughn a bit of trouble here. The Solar Flare is going to miss on the predict, but Max still getting pretty low. Again, you don't always have to kill. If you just get total lane dominance, that will also be nice.
Certainly established. Not something you can definitely assume against the Xayah Rakan, but Deft and Mata among our best 2v2 laners. Working out really well for them. They're pushing up, they're in control. That was cheeky from Deft, looking for the harassment with the E there on the Ezreal. Not usually what we see Arcane Shift used for. Lane control in bot, a kill on top lane, and Yukal farming it out against the Anivia. Things going very well so far for KT.
Beyond is trying this again, but now Maha in a lot of trouble here. The Cannon Barrage coming in, but the knockup on a Deft is getting low and eating those tower shots. The both of them get kidnapped, and a double kill to Maha. Perfect timing from Beyond, a bit too much from KT.
And Mata flashes in for the Q, and it's exactly the same time as Beyond comes in. Feels like his birthday has come early. Getting the kidnap onto 2 members under turret. Watch the replay. We knew Deft and Mata were being hyphy when Deft used the Arcane Shift for harass. He used it to go in again to chase down the kill. But grand entrance into the kidnap. An instant single Q double kill for the Xayah. And all the good work for Deft and Mata turned around.
That was such a hype way for that fight to end. I mean, it was a fantastic call. You thought maybe the 3rd or 4th time from the Zac was enough, but just the 5th time coming in and perfect timing. Probably on the comms saying, hey, these guys are being ridiculously over-aggressive. They're probably going to flash on us eventually. We should come down again. And the timing was just unbelievably good.
And also that it bailed Maha out of a lose-lose situation. He turns the Cloak of Agility and 2 longswords into the entire Essence Reaver with the extra 700-800 gold he picked up from kills. That's so big for Maha. He's actually now in largely item parity with Deft and AD parity as well. So the next time the all-in comes through, if you botch it, could definitely be turned around on KT.
You'll notice after that happens, oh wow, nice steal there from Deft. But after that happens in the bottom lane, all the wards in the world, all the camps in the red side jungle of MVP get placed. And so they're always going to know when the Zac is bottom side.
Of the champions here, I would say that Zac has the biggest scaling advantage. Could argue the Gangplank over the Scion as well. And then Anivia versus Swain is very interesting in the late game. It's going to be hard to evaluate. We're still learning about patch 8.5 Swain. My first thought would be Anivia for the lower cooldown control abilities and utility that she's being able to provide, and certainly with Xayah over the Ezreal. So scaling-wise, MVP have a lot of options, and Skarner sticks out as the champion who could be the most sad little Skarner and little Scorpion in the late game because of how the wall interacts with the suppression. So MVP picking up those kills, getting a bit of bot lane control as the Infernal is the next Drake to come onto the map is welcome news for the side of MVP.
Yukal trying to spot this out. They know that someone's over here, but Ian with the roam is just running straight into them Beyond with the knockup, and this is 4-on-3. And a TP is gonna come on in, trying to get them pretty low, and it looks like finally Maha does go down. Beyond going a little bit too far deep. ADD also completing his teleport here. And now it's just all on the run for MVP as they do not want any time to get on in here. They get the stun onto Smev and force the flash, but ultimately a lost fight from MVP.
It seems like the cool place to be for these players under the enemy turret, as now two teams have had it turned around. Using the W for zoning here, and Yukon on the front line.
Oh boy, Max trying to bait them in, I suppose. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but either way is forced to flash away from that one. Just get out of dodge. But after getting 2 kills, they can put the Rift Herald down and begin to push that lane. And all of a sudden, things are certainly snowballing in KT's direction.
Especially because they were benefited by the big dive while they already had the Rift Herald in their possession. So they got to get the bot lane outer turret, which they desperately wanted with this 2-item Ezreal. It's now able to rotate out. Well, watch the replay. Again, it seems to be the cool place to be is the turret dive. LPL-esque in both the execution and the decision. They go in deep, but KT are there to respond. Sion and the rest of the team aren't able to salvage anything, so MVP give up 2 kills. They also give up the turret. We're doing a bit of the throws here in the early game, as now KT has the map control that should have been denied out of that botched dive.
Def trying to get cheeky again with the true shot barrage. Not going to happen this time, but certainly sitting pretty, that Leona-Ezreal combination. And what we saw of it in that last fight is definitely getting very scary. Just Solar Flare to the true shot barrage can do immense damage and lock people down forever, it feels like. And KT certainly happy that the next Drake is going to be Infernal as well to complement their Mountain Drake.
And it's the time where KT wants to fight. They have the lane assignment advantage because they have the teleport. Not available yet. They want to basically play the map and also fight wherever possible, while Def is by far the strongest person on the map. 2 items, working towards the 3rd. We'll get there before Maha can even hope to have 2.5 items. Might even go the cheaper build we see on Xayah's recently of the double Zeal item to stay competitive. Deft is the MVP of this Rift. Irony, of course, with MVP playing. And let's see how they can maximize his effort, because the moment they group, MVP have to be so careful or to use the wall to cut KT off.
MVP get the fast track in onto this Drake, and KT essentially just give it to them. But they're going to fight here. They're going to get on top of Ian, who eventually does cleanse Flash, but it is going to go over to MVP in the back. That entrance from Max is not going to work, and finally the Impale onto Beyond is going to be enough. Everybody on the side of MVP just trying to disengage, but they cannot in the end. They get the 1 Infernal Drake for 3 members of their team.
They need to use the wall, which obviously would only be level 1 at this point, to keep KT away. They cannot afford to choose fights against KT, and Def gets more kills. More of this, they will lose their mid lane turret as well. You need to know when your enemy is at its strongest, and 2-item Ezreal, pre-20 minutes. Very few champions in League can stand out to what he can provide.
You have to wonder where this game would be had the tower dive not come in, but it feels like MVP essentially just played straight into KT's hands, and that's definitely not a feel-good moment for them, whereas KT finally getting their feet underneath them.
And it's the zone control we mentioned. First we see the Gangplank ultimate, then Leona flashes for her own ult, and going for the play, making the controlling space, and Ian and Maha at the bottom can do nothing. They have to walk away from the rest of the team because they've been zoned out, and that is how KT looks to play out fights, with a buffed up AD carry, and the tank line counts for nothing for MVP.
Yeah, we're not getting those in the jungle, very close quarters fights just yet, where we can see the miracle plays like we saw from FLICKR when he was playing on the Anivia, stuff like that. And also, it's taking a lot longer for the Anivia to get online. She's only on 1 item, working towards her second. This is not when she's strong, Papa.
And that's the thing, is that you can definitely think of Anivia and where she fits in the meta. She answers, as we mentioned at the start of the broadcast, 3 tanks and a hyper carry. But that's largely from her utility and late game her damage. Her damage output going for predictably a very mana-centric stacking build. She's not going to hit power till 3 items. And Ezreal has huge power at a cheap 2 items, and that's where you see the kind of lack of equilibrium when it comes to power spikes. Def has the biggest in the game. MVP need to understand that both the Essence Reaver AD carry and the Anivia are going to be slow to build up, and inviting 5v5 fights is the last thing they want to do.
Yeah. Def's carrying them for now, but we also got Gangplank and Swain, which is By the way, a lot stronger on this patch. If you guys missed it earlier, we were talking about zone control, but just in general, more buffs coming towards this champion. We're going to be seeing a lot more. And working towards the Leandries as well. It makes sense. You go tanky, but then also you'll have that extra 10% damage on actually both the items. So not just the magic from the Abyssal Mask, but also the Leandries.
And it actually fits with what we're saying about Swain and his zone control, because you think of Leandries, the reason why it's fallen off is it takes 5 seconds to get the 10% damage amp. For a lot of champions, that's not a lot. They're looking onto Beyond here.
Hey, he's in a lot of trouble, and not just him. They're not even looking for him. They want to get onto Ian, and Beyond was just in the way. Very unfortunate. He had his cleanse, decided, you know, not to use it. Couldn't really in the end because he got impaled, but...
An open lane this early in the game. The wall isn't going to interrupt them either. They get the pick. They're looking for a second one here, KT.
Felt weird. It's like he was too far down the lane when he was right next to his turret. And now it looks like ADD is going to be the one that gets caught up here. Nobody is safe when you're this far ahead. 10,000 gold is the advantage for KT at 22 minutes into the game.
And the lane war is running so much value. They turn onto the Baron already. MVP going to take an age to check it. They might just have to give this one up.
You'd have to think so, unless Beyond can get the Miracle Steal. But already Mata and Yucal are going to be on top of this. It's going to go over to Score and KT. Everybody on MVP once again just trying to run. Maha takes a huge barrel to the face, and they're trying to get down on him. Smeb wants one more barrel. Can he do it? The answer's no. Actually gets himself into a bit of trouble here. Still has his stopwatch in the end. It looks like he will actually survive after all that funny action.
Yeah, comical that the Gangplank's able to live, but KT get the objective. They get exit kills as well. They're going to back away, and this game has definitely snowballed at the last time MVP wanted to fight, but MVP opted into those fights. Valdez, we saw them walk up and opt into 5v5s. They weren't fully disengaged, and they thought there were fights they could win. Maybe baited by the KT misplay around the bot lane outer turret now 10 minutes ago. Before we see any value out of the Anivia and the Sion and Zac frontline for a damage deal that's still getting there. It's only 2 items onto the Xayah. Certainly can't answer 3 items and the QSS the Ezreal's providing. MVP, you need to know when you're strong and weak. They didn't, and now the game could be decided on the next push. It's already a massive 11,000 gold lead.
Yeah. Certainly does feel like an upper tier team in LCK versus a lower tier team in LCK. KT, they look totally flat up against Kingzone. Kingzone, you know, by and far #1 in LCK. But then once they go up against a weaker team like MVP, they look unstoppable. It's hard to get this big of a lead this early on in the game.
You could say, though, against Kingzone, they were showing too much respect. We didn't really see aggression from any member, and they just lost a game with an early game comp. This game, they've shown maximum disrespect going for, again, poking trades with the Arcane Shift. You never see that. A poking trade from the Ezreal under the enemy turret. We saw that from KT trying to actually play more aggressive. Can they actually do that in the playoffs, in the best of 5s? We don't know about that. That's a different question.
Well, KT using their lead and the rest of their Baron to get a massive Baron power play. Getting 2 of the inner turrets here. Looking for the 3rd one in the bottom lane. Score always threatening on that Skarner. Was looking for Ian in the top side. Did have his flash, but a good response from them there. The question is, you know, you can stop him once. Can you stop him in the future? Smeb in a bit of trouble, but again, it is the Gangplank. Beyond actually the one in trouble. Now Smeb is just turning onto ADD. There's the Solar Flare, and now that should be enough damage to take him out. Kill will go over to Death. Meanwhile, on the top side, Yucal, by the way, pushing all by himself, not necessarily needing the help of his team.
Yeah, 4v5 throw that. They get the kill. They rotate to mid lane. Going to be a second inhibitor turret going down. No damage onto Ian. Maha can't walk up because he has to respect the Leona. KT may have made some miscalculations in aggression, but overall, they've played their game plan super well.
It was just the 2 kills with the perfect timing from Beyond in the bottom side when they got a little bit too aggressive. Outside of that, KT have been stomping MVP. I was thinking, you know, maybe they would give a win away, but after this performance, not so sure. They're trying to burst down Yucal, but he still has his stopwatch, and now they're just going to easily turn this one around. There is no chance for MVP to win this fight.
Just Swain things. Smeb walking up. They want exit kills and to end the game here, KT.
Yeah, just trying to make the KDA look a little bit better towards the end, but looks like we should have a pretty quick game at the end of it all. Just about 27 minutes. Looking for ADD here. See you later. You're going to go down eventually. Ian trying to help out and do the Anivia miracle, but it's not really working. Mana actually does go down to ADD, but that will be the Nexus eventually falling with the help of the minions as KT will take game number 1.
27 minutes of domination from KT with about 30 seconds of question marks. KT Rolster showing the aggressive play that they haven't been able to do against the best teams. If they can play this forward though, if this is the KT we see in playoffs, will they win every game cleanly? No, but they will make a spectacle. Their fans will appreciate that they're giving it a real go. Is it the opposition or is it a new side of KT? We never know, as KT Rolster do fall into bad habits, but we said the roller coaster had been going on the down. This could be, once again, going for that ascension as KT Rolster trying to play themselves into form on the final week of the regular season.
It's certainly a game and perhaps eventually a series that will give them a ton of confidence, right? You said disrespect, but I think it's just, oh, these guys are playing directly into our hands, and they just look so confident on the Rift. Everybody laughing in the booth as well. It's one of those really enjoyable solo queue games where you just crush the enemy team. I'm sure that's kind of what it feels like here for KT.
But it's also that sort of game, that sort of performance gives that little kernel of excitement. And that is what KT fans always trade upon. The disappointment and excitement is always there. This was exciting. This was aggressive. This was good to see from KT. Let's see if they can back it up and close it out 2-0, although have some wayward sidesteps in game number 2.
Yeah. Probably no replay from that one. Was pretty straightforward in 27 minutes. So guys, we're gonna take a 10-minute break and we'll be right back with game number 2 of MVP versus KT Rolster.
저희 팀이 기상 시간이라 이제 폭력성을 한번 알아보겠습니다.
잘 만들었어. 네, 연습이 곧 있어서 얼른 깨야 되는 관계로 안준현 선수만 8점으로 일어난 걸로 하도록 하겠습니다.
네, 이게 MVP 팀이 이제 밥 먹으러 갑니다. 연습이 끝나고.
나만 찍어.
너가 제일 귀엽잖아. 그러면 밥 먹으러 가자. 저희는 매일 밥 먹으러 갈 때 이거 건모의 얼굴 한번 보고 갑니다.
사랑해요.
오늘 메뉴가 뭐일 것 같으세요?
오늘 메뉴요?
네,
저는 압니다.
어떤 것 같으세요?
제육볶음에 김치찌개 나옵니다.
저는 만두 나올 것 같거든요. 오늘 메뉴 뭐 나올 것 같으세요?
밥, 반찬.
이 날씨 보세요, 여러분들.
어떻게 봐?
이 날씨 봐. 아니, 카메라가 화질이 좋다니까.
날씨가 뭐요?
너 모공까지 다 나와.
아이.
저희가 식당을 배구 숙소 겸으로 쓰고 있기 때문에 다른 선수분들이 계실 수도 있어요. 빨리 문 열어.
촬영할 바라지.
자, 저희들의 식상입니다. 이렇게 맛있는 걸 먹는데 살이 안 찔 수가 없어. 자, 이거 맛이 없을 수가 없어, 이거. 저는 밥 조금. 다이어트를 해야 되기 때문에 밥을 조금. 이거 반 덜어줄래?
덜어달라고?
덜어줘. 자, 살 빼야 돼. 오늘은 맛있는 제육볶음.
내가 맞췄지. 제육볶음.
자, 이제 식사 시간 이후에 돌아오도록 하겠습니다. 저희의 옷걸이. 옷이 아주 가득하고요. 그리고 여기도 옷걸이. 여기 옷걸이 하나 더 있고, 여기도 옷걸이. 여기는 저희들의 옷가지로 올려놓은 곳이고요. 여기 온갖 약품들이 다 있고요. 여기는 저희가 인형 뽑기로 뽑은 인형들이 여기 한가득 있습니다. 저희는 이제 가정집에서 연습실이랑 다 붙어있기 때문에 이게 숙소도 저희는 꾸며내는 분위기를 좋아하지 않기 때문에 그냥 일어났을 때 그 상태로 그대로 찍었습니다. 여기는 이제 저희 보듀오 마하와 맥스의 잠자는 곳입니다. 여기 제가 자는 곳에 여기 병아리 하나 있고요. 여기는 이제 연습생 서포 친구와 이제 파일럿 선수가 연습하는 자리고요. 여기는 코치 형님 자리, 여기는 마하가 연습 중이고.
안녕하세요, 안녕하세요.
그리고 여기에 꼬부기가 있네. 꼬부가. 니 왜 여기 있냐?
왜 내 자리에 있어 얘?
깜짝 놀랐네. 아주.
얘 왜 내 자리에 있어?
꼬부가. 저를 굉장히 좋아해. 꼬부가. 나 좋아하지.
확실해? 오늘 날씨 좋은데. 꼬부기 산책을 해볼까? 얘가 잘 갈까요? 꼬부기 산책 가기 전
배고프거든요.
그는 배가 고픕니다. 컹스. 꼬부기의 자유. 산책 잘 다니는데. 잠시만, 꼬부가.
안녕하세요. 111 카메라맨 마하입니다. 저희가 장을 보러 갑니다. 저희가 장을 봐야 돼요. 이러면 너무 못생기게 나올 것 같은데? 왜냐면 저희는 잘생기게 인터뷰를 했기 때문에 잘생긴 모습만 보여주도록.
보통은 와랑 저 둘이서 장 보러 갑니다.
지금 이제 빨래를 할 부품들이 부족해요. 일단은 섬유유연제를 사야 되고, 그리고 이제 뭐 물티슈 같은 것도 좀 부족하고, 세제도 사야 될 수도 있고, 뭐 치약 이런 것도 좀 필요하지 않을까? 이거 사야지.
고기, 닭다리.
자, 다이어트는 이렇게 하는 거예요. 원래 저녁은 원래는 숙소에서 먹는데, 저는 거기서 이제 탄수화물을 많이 먹게 되잖아요. 숙소 밥은. 저는 이것만 먹고 살을 듭니다.
맨날 칼로리 계산하고 있다는 게 사실입니까?
저는 그런 행동을 하지 않습니다.
그래서 하루에 먹는 평균 칼로리가 몇이죠?
1600칼로리? 꽤 많이 먹는 편이에요, 요즘은.
다이어트 할 당시에는 몇 칼로리 드셨나요, 하루에?
다이어트 한참 할 때는 하루에 1000칼로리 이하로 먹었던 걸로 기억을 해요. 거의 안 먹으면서 있으니까. 근데 그렇게 하면 별로 몸에 좋진 않아요. 건강하게 먹고 건강하게 운동하셔야 됩니다. 자, 저희는 장을 다 보고 아까 돌아왔던 3층으로 다시 돌아왔어요. 이만큼이나 됐습니다. 엄청 많아요.
여기 한 달에서 2달 반.
장을 안 봐도 됩니다. 안녕.